So hello everyone. Thank you so much for taking your time and joining this event. It's really my pleasure to welcome all of you to the event Vartalap Let's Discuss. This is a chain of mental health discussions which is initiated by the Student Wellness Center IIT Bombay. And I warmly welcome all of you for today's sixth Vartalap session. So today's topic is also very interesting. I think all of you must have seen that on the posters. You must have received the notification on your emails, events. So we're going to discuss today about the joy of self-acceptance. And we have our guest speaker, Miss Asira Chirmuley with us. Welcome, Asira. Yes, so I would like to briefly introduce Asira. Asira is a psychotherapist. She is a director at Atha Center for Psychotherapy and Training, which is in Thane. She is a visiting faculty for KC College, Swami Vivekananda College, and St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. Asira is trained in cognitive behavior therapy from the Beck Institute, USA. She is Associate Fellow and Supervisor of Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy and Cognitive Behavior Therapy from the Albert Ellis Institute, USA. She is also training faculty level 2 at Albert Ellis Institute, USA. Asira has completed her master's in clinical psychology from SNDT University, Mumbai. She is trained in acceptance and commitment therapy, also listed in Association of Contextual Behavioral Sciences official website as ACT therapist. She is international affiliate member of Distinguished American Psychological Association, which is APA. We are really glad and delighted to have you, Asira, for this session today. And we are very much looking forward to hear from you about today's very interesting topic, which is the joy of self-acceptance. And without wasting much of a time, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Anjali, for introducing me. And I'm really glad that I have received this opportunity to have a discussion with all of you. So, a very warm welcome to all the students. And I would also like to thank the core committee members of Student Wellness Center at IIT Bombay for coming up with such an interesting and inspiring initiative to promote emotional well-being. I think Vartalap also means discussing and thinking together. So I firmly believe that discussion always helps to think clearly, and it even pushes us to explore more, right? And today's topic is such that definitely so much more is needed for us to explore. This is just the start, I think, in terms of understanding this topic. Psychology also per se, I don't think has a very extensive understanding of self-acceptance, but whatever understanding that I have, I'm going to share with all of you. I'm sure it's very limited, but we can start exploring this topic further. So today's focus of reflection will be on the joy of self-acceptance. Our discussion will be divided into 3 parts. I know that I have 45 minutes to express my views and insights, and then students can interact with me. And I would really like students to interact with me through the chat section, which I can see. So, having more discussion is going to be very fruitful. So the 3 parts that I have divided this presentation. First is, what is unconditional self-acceptance? What does it actually mean? How do we understand it? Then unconditional self-acceptance, how it can promote our mental health and well-being. In what way it can. And thirdly, we will look at some of the steps, or let's say some rituals that we can incorporate in our daily life to practice unconditional self-acceptance, which is actually the hardest. But definitely, as I said, we have to start somewhere. So we can start from today. So let us think together for this 45 minutes and explore the joy of self-acceptance. I would like to ask all my students here that what do you actually mean by self-acceptance? What is your understanding of it? I know that we have been talking about this topic, like in psychology, this is a very well known topic, right? Many of us, we keep on exploring what is self acceptance, what does it actually mean. If we go to the next slide, we will look at what is unconditional self acceptance. So, Anjali, if you can go to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. Now, from psychological point of view, I'm going to elaborate on what is unconditional self acceptance. See, unconditional means where there are no conditions, right? So, if you want to acknowledge yourself or if you want to accept yourself, we need to do it without placing any conditions on ourselves. Let's say conditions of worth, conditions of, I having certain number of degrees, I possessing something, having certain types of characteristics. So it's very important that we accept ourselves without conditions. That's why it's called unconditional self acceptance. But how do we get there? First and the foremost part in unconditional self acceptance is your self acceptance is not dependent on something external. Generally, like when students come to me, I have the privilege of talking with amazing students who are going to become budding psychologists. And whenever, like, let's say if they fail in a test or one of the assignments, if they do the assignment poorly, they come and tell me that, uh, others should not think of me as a fool, or my professor should not think of me as a fool. Now, this is called as conditional self acceptance because let's say if they're failing at something, that failure defines them, that failure defines their individuality. So, the self acceptance is very much dependent on external reward, validation, acceptance. And that is pretty unhealthy because I don't know whether we can always please other people. It's a bit difficult task, I guess. So it's very important to understand that self acceptance hence needs to be first coming from your own self. Because though it is a bit difficult, but when it comes to understanding yourself, I think you can do it faster than someone else. So unconditional self acceptance firstly means that you need to start accepting yourself. It is something that you have to start with yourself. It's an inward processing. It's not something that will depend on external reward or outcome. That's first important point. I don't know whether you agree with me. You can share your views with me on the chat box. Second important part of unconditional self acceptance is getting rid of global labels that we have created. Unfortunately, living in a materialistic world, when we are continuously having conversations with each other, we are having a more like a corporate kind of a relationship, especially when it comes to business, right? Or even when it comes to students and teachers, we have to rate their performances. Somewhere I think global rating is a big problem today. So when I say global rating, I'm saying that we rate our essence or our individuality as a whole, which is again very, very dysfunctional. According to psychologists, they say that human beings cannot be rated globally. You cannot really say that this person is 80% or this person is superior or XYZ person is inferior. You cannot actually place these global ratings on people. But we do it constantly without understanding how it can backfire and impact us in a very, very destructive manner. Like one day a student came to me and she told me, that first interview I had on the campus, through the campus, and I did not get selected. And she told me that I think I just am not good enough. Now, this I am not good enough because I did not pass an interview. This is global rating, right? She had a setback and we don't know how to process this setback. So she globally rated herself that me entirely I'm not good enough. So, my next question to all of you is it really possible to rate our essence or our individuality as a whole? Is it possible? I don't think it is possible because when it comes to the self, our self is so complex. So if you look at the next point also that I've written, understanding the self is actually understanding the complexity of who you are. You are not just your career, you are not just your relationships, you are not just your social status. You are much more than all these factors. So what we call as myself is actually made up of innumerable factors, right? And one factor cannot define your individuality. And to be honest, we shouldn't let it define our individuality. That's why we say, especially in REBT, which is a form of psychotherapy, we say that we are so complex that we cannot rate ourselves, we can only rate our actions. That is very, very important. And if you ask me, metaphorically, if I have to explain this concept to you, I will tell you that when we say the self, it is more like, you're visiting your own garden. So if you have ever been to a garden, you will see it's made up of so many, like there's so many different plants, different flowers, right? Different creatures. And every day when you enter a garden, it's a new experience. It's not like yesterday, right? Because some changes are happening all the time. Today some plants are doing quite well. Tomorrow you get up, you go to the garden, some plants are not doing that well. Weeds are there, you have to remove the weeds, otherwise they will affect the other plants. So, right, similarly with ourselves also, there are some traits within us which are unhealthy, which we need to work on. Some traits are probably very healthy, which we should reinforce, we should optimize, we should maximize, right? And there are so many parts to our own self which are still we haven't explored. We have to yet explore, right? Like, at least when I think about myself, I don't know whether I've really understood myself totally. There are so many aspects which still we don't know actually. Same like a garden, so many unexplored elements are there. Sometimes we look at one flower and we don't understand the significance of it. After a few years, in one of the conversations, we come to know, okay, that this flower is actually very medicinal and it can help you in XYZ manner. So we have to keep exploring, right? So remember something, it's not that we are not going to rate our actions. Definitely we have to rate them, because only then we will be able to improve on ourselves, right? So if I fail in an interview, definitely I can tell myself that I failed at an interview, versus telling myself that because I failed in this interview, I am a failure. So I am a failure is global rating, which we need to get rid of. And we have to continue rating our performances, our actions, so that we become a better version of ourselves. Right? I hope till here this is making sense to all of you. So I'll just quickly go through what I said. We are exploring the joy of self acceptance, and we are understanding what is this unconditional self acceptance. Because if you have to feel that joy can only come if we accept ourselves without any conditions. So the first part I said is our acceptance needs to be intrinsic. We have to give that to ourselves. We shouldn't wait for someone else to do that for ourselves, because I'm not saying people won't do it. There are people who will accept you unconditionally, but that can keep changing, right? So intrinsically, we have to try and accept ourselves. So the entire journey is going inwards. So when you go inwards, you can go upwards. That's first point. Second point is we need to get rid of global ratings. Global rating means rating your entire essence or your individuality. We need to understand that human beings are so complex. Our self is so complex. It is made up of innumerable factors. So we cannot really rate everything and then come to this total estimation of my worth. That's not possible. Now, next, further elaborating on this concept, I want to tell you why this global rating is also not possible. Because humans as species, we are also very unique. If you look at your friends, or if you look at your relatives or your family members, you will see each person has got some distinctive quality which you don't have. Definitely it's upon us to find that quality, but all of us, we have something that's unique, that is our own, that we can offer to others, to the world, to society. So we need to find that element. What is that element? What is that unique element you have, which is your secret? So no one is like the other person. That uniqueness we all have, right? Second, we are also very dynamic and ever changing. Sorry, ever changing means we keep on changing, we keep on learning from new experiences. Every moment is new for us, right? Like just 1 minute before how I was, I'm very different right now because I'm trying to learn something. Probably it's very difficult to talk to just myself, right? So initially when I used to do webinars and only I can see my own self, it was a bit weird and quite challenging. But this is a learning experience that now you have to learn, you have to try to adapt to this situation, right? So we are constantly adapting to new experiences, to new situations, and that's why we are ever changing, right? And something that is ever changing, something that is constantly in a state of flux, you cannot really put it in one compartment. Like, okay, she is superior, end of story. She is inferior. We cannot really put ourselves into these compartments. And we should be grateful to God that things are ever changing and we are also pretty dynamic and we can adapt, because then that's why we can work on ourselves. And that's why they say no matter what situation comes in your life, but how you respond to that situation is something you can manage, you can control. And that happens because we have this unique skill to adapt. So logically also, now if you think, if human beings are unique, if we are dynamic and ever changing, we are constantly learning, we are constantly adapting. It depends on us how we want to adapt, whether we want to really grow or we want to, not grow and probably get into destructive habits. That is up to us. But that adaptation, that freedom we have. And when something is so ever changing, then you can't put that self into a label of, she is good, she's bad, she's successful, she's a failure. We cannot put ourselves into these labels, right? So because most of my work is with students and with adolescents and adults, I we definitely have these interesting interactions even in colleges, right? Like, let's say if you don't get a career that you would want, you were always trying to aspire for, it's not the end of the world. That doesn't define your incapability. That just defines that one phase, that one interview, that one part of your process, right? So many of my students are aware of this FFC word that I constantly use. So FFC means we are all failable, means we are going to fail from time to time. No one has got this unique immunity against failure. I think most of us learn maximum through our setbacks. So FFC actually means that we are failable. All of us can fail. We do fail. Then we are fallible. Fallible means all of us have an error making tendency, right? Different kinds of errors we keep making, right? Different kinds of mistakes we keep making and we learn from them. So again, we are fallible, we are fallible, and C stands for complex. Complex means we are all unique. We all have something to offer to ourselves and to others. Acknowledging this, fallibility is very, very important. So one thing I really want all of you to reflect on with me is understanding that you do have a dynamic possibility to, to master your life, to take charge of your life, but you also have certain limitations. You're not going to be good at everything. And though it is difficult to digest, it's also important to acknowledge that we all have limitations. We aren't perfect. No one is perfect here. Obviously, we can aim for excellence, right? So, people who are doing amazing work in their fields, we could say that they're really excellent at it. But when it comes to mastering something, right? Every field is also evolving. So we cannot actually say that we have mastered it completely. That would be a lie, because each field is evolving here, right? So definitely you should aim for excellence, right? If you want to achieve great heights, you can aim for that excellence. But remember that acknowledge your limitations with it and go forward, right? And unconditional self acceptance also means believing in yourself for what you are. Today, you might have many shortcomings, many limitations, many strengths, but remember, you are a dynamic possibility, right? People change, people can go ahead in life, people can shift careers, right? They can master new skills. So, all of us here, we are gifted with this dynamic possibility. We just need to invest our time, energy, and focus into it, right? So this is the first part, of my presentation in terms of what is unconditional self acceptance. And this quote really came to my mind, which I think is very, very important for us to introspect on, which is we cannot possibly judge ourselves because our being includes our becoming, right? And becoming means we are constantly changing. So we are a complete work in progress. From time to time, we change, we evolve. It is up to us how we want to evolve and in which way we want to take, our life, in which direction we want to lead our life, right? So if you have any questions still here, probably Anjali, you can let me know if there are any.
Yes, there are a few questions. I'll just ask right away. So first question is, on what basis do we decide that some traits are healthy or not?
That's interesting. So I think that's a very good question. On what basis we can decide if traits are healthy or not? See, first, answer to this question would be ask yourself, this trait, how is it benefiting you and others in your life? See, any characteristic, this is my personal understanding, okay? Any characteristic on or any habit or any trait or any quality is considered to be healthy if it helps you in a productive way. Let's say it helps you to achieve your goals, it helps you to inspire yourself and others, it helps you to promote meaning in your life, and it is also helping other significant people in your life, right? Then it is considered to be a healthy quality. Let's say kindness. Now, kindness as a quality helps me also. If I am kind, I will have more calmness within me, I will be more grateful, right? And this kindness will also help others around me. So if I'm, let's say, leading a company, my team members would also benefit from the kindness. So I'll be probably more empathetic with them while I am understanding their issues, right? So this could be one example that comes to my mind. I hope I have answered his question.
Yes. There is a one more question, Asira. Nitul Jain is asking, but we are rated constantly by professors, parents, employees, and get benefited in the payment and a good behavior according to that. So it is again related to if we are rated constantly by the people around us, then how to go ahead with it.
That's very true, actually. To be very honest, yes. Because I am also a teacher, I know that we have to mark their assignments. So we have to sometimes really give them a rating 18 on 20. But I would like to tell you something that this is when we are transacting with the world, right? When we are working with the world, then definitely ratings are there. But we are not rating someone's essence, someone's individuality. So if I'm rating my student, let's say 15 on 25, I'm rating her performance on that assignment, that just one assignment, right? So even if your boss is rating you, let's say there are appraisals that happen. So they are necessary, right? Only then you will understand where you stand, what qualities you have, and what you need to work on. So appraisals are also functional, but even if they sometimes, communication also, we are not very effective at times. So even if they say that you are no good, I think we have to filter these words out for ourselves, because we cannot go and tell everyone this concept. So it's very necessary that even if your boss tells you, like one of my client was sharing with me, she did very badly during one presentation, and her boss told her that, you're no good, you just can't do anything properly. Now, this really was a very unpleasant statement. So she felt very anxious and sad about it too. But here we have to focus on how I need to interpret this situation. So even if my boss says that I am no good, I have to ask myself, was he only rating my performance or was he rating my individuality? And even if he is rating my individuality, is it logical to rate one's individuality? You're learning today, it's not logical. It is not scientific also. And it is not possible also to rate your individuality. So, one thing I'll tell you, all these reflections are for ourselves so that we can filter out negative comments, unpleasant remarks, and critical feedbacks.
Yes. I think we can go ahead with the next slide now.
Okay. Right. So, thank you for asking questions. Keep asking. We can then think together. Now, the next important part, the second part of this presentation is how can unconditional self acceptance promote mental well being? So, here USA stands for unconditional self acceptance. How does it promote mental or emotional well being? To answer this question, I have to first tell you how global rating affects your mental health. So, when I say global rating, I'm looking at labeling. When you label your individuality or your essence or your self, so let's say if you did not do well in a presentation and if you label yourself as no good, this no good label is going to affect your mental health. How? Let's understand that. Generally, when we get into such a self rating, we get very anxious because then we want to prove others that, okay, I'm good. You know, you have to like me. We get into a lot of anxiety, we get into a lot of performance pressure. So many individuals who go through social anxiety, you will see they have this labeling issue. We also call it a thinking error because we keep labeling our performances and not our performances, actually our individuality. So self rating actually maintains your anxiety. It maintains your depression also. You feel really depressed or hopeless about your future, right? Like I was telling you about this client, right, who felt very anxious when her boss told her that, you know, you're no good. She actually felt very sad about her own future in terms of her career. So it can lead to a lot of self doubt, self rating, or global rating. It will also make you procrastinate on your tasks. So I don't know whether you have observed this, but whenever we give such kind of labels to ourselves, we want to avoid doing that task. So let's say I want to probably present somewhere, okay? And my last presentation was a big failure. And I told myself, oh, you are a failure, okay, or you are incompetent. Now, when I gave this label to myself, do you think with this label I will be motivated to work on the next presentation? Do you think I'll be looking forward to the next presentation? I won't. Because I will be fixated on this that I am no good, I am incompetent. So I don't have it in me. So then I will keep on delaying working on that task. That's why self rating also maintains your procrastination, right? And then lack of motivation also, you won't be looking forward. You will actually find various excuses to not do that task. And then this kind of self rating also leads to then obsessive thoughts. So then, you know, you'll constantly think about proving yourself to others. You will constantly think about how they should validate your efforts, how they should actually start acknowledging your efforts. So your entire focus will change from the task to what others are thinking. So this needs to be very clear that self rating or labeling will only maintain your emotional difficulties. First point. Second point is whenever you get into any kind of self rating, like most commonly I've heard, you know, from my experience with clients is I am no good, I'm inferior, I'm incompetent, I'm failure, I'm a loser, I cannot make anyone happy, I'm miserable, right? These kind of labels will also create a lot of perfectionist kind of tendencies in you, where again you want to be a compulsive achiever. So you're not actually enjoying working on assignments, but you just want to be perfect at it again to prove someone else, to gain someone else's validation on it. So I've written here disease of perfectionism because currently there was one research done among psychologists, and perfectionism is not healthy, right? It is actually an emotional problem. So I'm not saying you don't aim for excellence in life, you definitely do that. But many a times we get into a lot of compulsive completion of tasks. So we go on doing something, right? Let's say tomorrow is my exam. I will go on working on it extensively, very much in depth, right? To that extent that I will hamper my health, my sleep, my mood. And even if I get good marks in it, I'm not actually enjoying those marks because I've fallen ill now. So even if you achieve the goal, you don't really take delight in it. You don't experience joy out of it. That is perfectionism. Excellence is definitely something that is helpful. Then such kind of labeling, it also affects your relationship with yourself because you will get into a lot of self judgment, self doubt, right? Lot of critical self talk, and it will also affect your relationship with others because if you rate yourself only entirely, you will also do that for others. So let's say if someone else doesn't fulfill your expectations, then you will even rate them like they are no good. This is also commonly seen, right? So it will affect your relationship with yourself and even with others. Then, as I already gave an example here, you will not be able to acknowledge your efforts and achievements. So when you get into labeling like I am superior or I am inferior, you actually won't be able to, credit yourself for your efforts because you're so compulsively achieving things that you lose sight of the journey. You're only focusing on the destination. But what about the entire journey? Sometimes you do not reach your destination, but journey is equally beautiful. But here we miss out on the journey also. And even if we go to the destination, we don't experience pleasure. So you don't enjoy your journey towards your goal or destination. And then we get up into again superiority inferiority complex. So we will even see others as no good, worthless, valueless, and even we will see ourselves as the same because we get into this rating business here, right? So we will label others too. And most importantly, I have seen that when you get into such kind of global ratings regarding your essence, you're not able to problem solve and think about creative solutions. You actually get more stuck. You're not able to work on it. Like just last week, I think I had an experience with a student. She went to USA to study for 2 years. Okay, so she studied and she was just about to get a job, but she did not get a job. Okay, there was a major problem related to her work visa and so many other legal issues, I think. So she was not able to get a job there. She didn't pass the interview, also the second one. And so I really liked how she coped with that situation, that she did not label herself that, I'm a big failure here. She said, okay, I failed at this. I failed at my attempt at USA to make my career. Now I'm going to just, you know, think of other options. I'm going to look at what other possibilities exist with my same degree. She applied to Canada, right? She, contacted many of her friends, relatives there, tried to send her resume across, and she got a very well paid job in Canada. So 6 months in USA, there was no result, but she did not label herself. And that's what happens when you don't label yourself as a failure, but when you only label that task or that performance or that one part, you're actually able to be very creative with problem solving. You're able to come out, with various possibilities. So that's a very good example of how just rating your actions will help you to problem solve. But if you rate your individuality, you won't be able to achieve your goals and go ahead in life, right? So in this way, we have to understand that self rating will maintain your psychological distress. But when it comes to just rating your actions or qualities, you will actually grow. You will actually be able to thrive. Right, so this is the second segment which I have covered in terms of how unconditional acceptance will help you promote your emotional well-being. Now, in this segment, if there are any doubts or if there are any insights that you want to share, Anjali, is there anything that has come in your chat?
Yes, I'm checking. So Neviljan is asking how to break this compulsive habit of global labeling. It is very much automatic.
Right. That is true according to psychology also, because we have rehearsed these thinking patterns. See, all this labeling ourselves and others, these are thinking processes. Now we have rehearsed them. It's like auto mode. They're on auto mode right now, as you rightly pointed out. So it's going to be really a bit of a struggle to understand it and work on it, but I think it's not impossible. So if you want to break this, you have to start with first understanding what kind of self-talk you do with yourself. So now I'm going to actually talk about strategies to nurture unconditional self-acceptance. So I will be answering your question in depth there. But just to tell you that yes, they can be automatic, but you can only break them by practicing and by creating new, functional, inspiring thinking patterns. Any other question, Anjali, here?
Yeah, no, I think we can go ahead with the next slide.
Okay.
There are questions, we can take it after the next slide.
Works. Okay, now most interesting part is what strategies we can use. Okay, what kind of strategies we can use to practice unconditional self acceptance in daily life. There is a spelling mistake here, in your daily life, right? So now when it comes to unconditional self acceptance rituals, okay, how we can practice, I think we have to start slow, but we need to be a bit consistent here. It's difficult, but as I said, it's possible. So we have to start with becoming alert regarding your self talk. Self talk is constantly what you tell yourself. See, we are constantly talking to ourselves, some or the other thing we tell ourselves. And we know this, that your thinking largely determines the quality of your life. So, quality of your thoughts will determine the quality of your life. So, what kind of thoughts you encourage in your mind? So you need to start becoming alert about it. So sometimes you can write down what you think to yourself. You can actually journal or pen down your uh, you know self talk, because you give life to what you think, right? If I constantly think that I am no good, I'm not going to be successful, then my actions will also reflect that thought. Then I will be very nervous, I won't take careful risks in life, I will be very much in my comfort zone. So this is very beautiful in psychology, that your self talk determines your direction of life. So start noting what you tell yourself. And I've seen this happening a lot, obviously even with myself, that we are so much focusing on what others are thinking about us that we do not pay attention to what we are thinking about ourselves. That is actually most important, because what others will think about you will keep changing. So if you act according to what they want, they will like you. If you don't act according to what they want, they will not like you, and that is going to keep changing. But how you think about yourself majorly will help you with progressing in your life. So sit with yourself and try to understand how you talk to yourself. And if you see that your self talk with yourself is very critical, it's very negative, right? Then what you have to do, then start talking to yourself the way you would talk to a dear friend of yours. Generally, if a friend comes for advice to us, let's say if a friend comes and tells you, that I'm a loser, I did not get accepted in this interview. I'm sure when you're advising this friend, you will be very rational and very empathetic, very compassionate. But we don't do that to the same thing with ourselves. We are very critical. So what you can do is ask yourself, how would you talk to your dear friend? Or how a dear friend would talk to you. Let's say if you have someone who is very dear to you in your life, your mentor, right, your parents. If you have someone who is very dear to you, ask yourself, how will that person deal with this situation? How will that person, tell you to think, or what will he say to you? That is also going to help you become more kinder with yourself. Right? So these are very actionable strategies, which I think can be very helpful if we practice them. Then third ritual to, nurture unconditional self acceptance is start rating only your actions, qualities, traits, characteristics, performances, and tasks, and not yourself. So from today only, try to make that change in your language when you're talking to yourself. So let's say if you wake up late, if you woke up late for like many days, and actually your goal was to wake up on time, then you could tell yourself that, okay, I am acting lazily, rather than saying I am lazy. Because if you say I am lazy, again you will, because you have labeled yourself as lazy, you will act also lazily only more. Then you will not have much hope about yourself. You must have observed this. If you tell yourself that, I am anyway very lazy, then you give that leeway to yourself to become more lazy. So it's more like an excuse that happens. So rather than doing that, just rate your action, that I acted lazily today by waking up late. I acted irresponsibly, rather than saying I am irresponsible. Right? I made a mistake, rather than saying I am a mistake. So just keep rating your actions, qualities, and do this even with positive qualities, because sometimes positive qualities also can, get into, it can push us to become more superior. We start thinking we know everything. So let's say if you're really good, you're progressing in your career. So rather than saying I am successful, you could say I am successful in my career. Rather than saying, I am good because I can maintain my relationships, you can say you are good at maintaining your relationships. Because see, whatever you are good at, tomorrow you may not be good at that. That can also happen. And whatever you are bad at today, tomorrow there can be a possibility that you learn and become good at it. So only rate your actions, qualities, tasks. So in psychology, many a times in psychotherapy, we say do a task-based rating versus individual rating. That helps. I have had some, interactions with students telling me, so, let us not rate ourselves only. Let us say that we are good, we are nice, we are worthy of everything. Now that is also a problem, because then you won't work on your mistakes or your shortcomings. So that's why rating actions is also important, so that you work on it and you do not get indifferent or you get into a superiority complex. Then next thing that you need to do is, what is your distinctive element? What is that spice that you add to yourself and to others? See, like spices, they add taste to food, right? In a similar way, all of us have some unique element that adds something to our life. So we have to find that out. What is that unique element? So you have to really think about this question. What is unique about you? And once you list down what is unique about you, then you have to, give your attention and time to it. Then make it, spend time into it and let it grow. Seek opportunities which will help you to, spend time into those unique qualities. So let's say if I'm good at singing, it's going to be important for me to spend some time in music, right? In doing something, let's say I'm singing something for myself, right? I'm learning something new, I'm listening to something new. So I will then spend time in that unique quality. So if I'm good at cooking or if I'm good at painting, it's important that I spend time in that. That is your unique element which you need to preserve. Okay, so start thinking about that as well. Then be open to accepting your limitations and work on them. As I said, we all have certain limitations. We all are lacking in something. We have to really take feedback from others. I don't know someone, but someone said to me this once, that you need to take feedback from others about yourself, rather than, just taking it your own self. Like, rather than self analysis, you should ask others how they think about you, because that would be, sometimes that will give you greater insights about yourself. So be open to accepting your limitations and work on them also. Then next is look for alternative possibilities in all situations. Any unfortunate situation, or let's say even any adversity, there is something that we can always do about it. Even if we cannot fix something, we can grow in it. We can evolve ourselves. So rather than looking at situations as end of the world scenarios, okay, this is it now, I don't think I can do anything about it. Try to look for alternative possibilities in all situations and see what can be done. And I think if you look at most successful people in their careers or in whatever they are aspiring for, they have this tendency to adapt and look for different possibilities. If not this, what can be done? Right? So try to create that within yourself. So let's say if something is not working in your life, write it down what it is and ask yourself, what could be alternative ways here? How can I manage this? Right? And I learned this from my students because they are so inspiring. Like, I remember one of my encounter with one of the classes, right? They were very busy in their internship and in their psychology, lecture schedule. They weren't getting time to read up on assignments. So I had given them a few assignments and they weren't able to make time for it. And interestingly, they themselves came up with so many alternative possibilities. What can be done? So can we have extra lectures? Can we have audio books? So they themselves came up with these alternative possibilities rather than saying that, okay, it's all done anyway, I'm no good, she's going to think of me as no good. So that's interesting. Then be a compassionate observer and not a critical analyzer. So if you notice that something is lacking within you, if you know that something is something you majorly do not know how to do, right? Then compassionately observe that. Try to tell yourself that, okay, I'm going to learn it. I will observe my shortcomings. I will try to focus on building them, working on them, sorry, rather than critically analyzing and getting into a lot of self blame and self punishing attitude, right? So be compassionate towards your own shortcomings and even towards others shortcomings. It is very difficult again to do this, but we have to constant reminders would always help in terms of making any kind of change. And in becoming a compassionate observer, I've also seen that as Asira, or let's say as a person, we have many roles in our life. One role is probably you are a daughter to someone, one is your sister to someone, you are, let's say a teacher to someone, right? You're a friend to someone, you are a sibling to someone. So many roles we have. Now, in each and every role, you are not going to be perfect. Every role will come with some advantages and some disadvantages. It will come with some, positives and some negatives. You have to compassionately observe yourself in all these roles and understand that all these together make you. One role again doesn't define you here. And keep working on it. Whatever are your negatives, keep working on them. Then this is very interesting. The next strategy is daily discomfort dose. This is like every day do something that discomforts you. Because when it comes to labeling, we like to, because we are so scared of rejection, failure, we only do tasks which are according to our comfort. We only invest time in those tasks which we know we will be able to do it comfortably, right? So every day try to do something which is out of your comfort zone, which is a bit discomforting. Obviously it should not be something that will harm your well-being, something that's going to be good only for your well-being, but it will be slightly discomforting, like getting up early, like doing some daily practice or exercise, like concentrating on healthy food habits, right? Like rather than using public transport, or rather than using an auto rickshaw to travel, walking to some place. So something that's going to be helpful to you, but it's going to be a bit discomforting. Like for me, I don't like to file things. Like organizing is not something which I like, but slowly that is also something that we'll have to as because I teach, I have to do a lot of admin work which I don't like. but that is also something now that's necessary, right? That giving daily discomfort dose to you, to your own self. Now, what will happen when you do that? You will understand that probably you're not great at it, and you will also accept that, okay, you are not great at this, right? But still you are doing it, and you will also try to understand that you can be okay at something and still do it. Just because you are okay at something, you don't need no need to give that up. You can still do it, right? And then the last point here is nurture healthy expectations from yourself. Means what? When you are expecting yourself to become someone, or to, if you are expecting yourself to achieve certain targets, you know, keep healthy expectations. Understand that certain expectations in your life will not be fulfilled. Like I've had interactions with so many clients and students who tell me that I need to get into this college, like it is a must. But the problem is, with this kind of an attitude, I've seen that they do very well, like they go out of their way, but this need to get into this college really takes a toll on them if they fail at getting into that college, and then their whole world collapses. So have expectations from yourself, but keep them healthy. Means what? Means keep some space for setbacks. Means be ready, have that readiness within you that certain plans might just not work even if you give your 100%. That can happen because so many things are just beyond your control, right? Outcome is not so much in our control. Only what we can do, we have to just give our best to the task. What happens with it is not something that always we can control. So if you want to get into a college, yes, you just give your best to it, but also be ready for setbacks and prepare yourself to cope with them, to handle these setbacks healthily. So these are some ways in which you can practice unconditional self acceptance in your daily life. Any questions from this segment?
Yes, there are a few questions. First question is, we keep falling into a same thinking pattern. How to avoid that? I think same thinking pattern is maybe unhealthy thinking pattern. So how to avoid that?
Right. So one way to, probably I would say, rather than avoiding, we need to manage it, because we cannot avoid thoughts. Same thinking patterns sometimes will come because we, as I said, we have overly rehearsed them now for so many years. So that negative narrative will come, but what we have to do is we have to acknowledge it, and we have to then analyze it. Is it doing any good to me? So three quick questions that I ask myself when I get negative thoughts is, one is this thought helping me in any way? Is it going to really help you in any way? If it is going to help you, keep it. But generally, our negative thoughts don't help us at all. So analyze by asking first question, is this thought going to help you? Second is this thought really true? Because so many of our thoughts, right, so many of our negative thoughts are actually not true today. They might have been true maybe 2 years back. Maybe I was overly sensitive 2 years back. But if I keep telling that to myself today without checking that thought, I will be misleading myself. Right? So, first way to analyze is ask yourself, is this thought helping you? Second is this thought really true? That. And third is, if my friend wanted my advice on this same negative thought, what would I tell my friend? We call this the friend technique, which is actually very helpful because, as I said, with friends, we are very rational, wise, compassionate. So, that reverse psychology, we have to use that on ourselves now. That, let's say, if a friend tells you that, I think I will always be alone in my life, what will you advise this friend? Give that same advice to yourself. So, this is my response to your question.
Yes. There is another question. If there is no one perfect in the world, then what are we trying to become in life?
This is a tricky question because no one perfect in the world. I would say, like, God is perfect. So if you believe in God, I think God is perfect. So definitely reaching that level is something that we can aspire for, like, excelling in our abilities. If you ask me, from our level, I think we can try to excel in whatever we do, right? Like let's say in when it comes to our materialistic world, right? Let's say at your job or at your in your relationships, you can try to excel, but perfection in relationships or in career or in in social status, in wealth, that's something that is going to keep changing all the time. So perfectionism, that's why, is not the goal from psychological point of view. There are different other standpoints which, if we explore, we will need more time for that. But if you ask me from a psychological point of view, perfectionism, if that perfectionism again motivates you, inspires you, helps you, it is helping you acknowledge your limitations and be grateful, humble, then you keep it. But if perfectionism is actually not inspiring you, not motivating you, it is actually making you ungrateful and very compulsive, and it is self defeating, then something definitely needs to be done about it. Because I have met some people in my life who are actually perfect, right, in every way, and that perfection actually keeps helping them. It inspires them also and others also. So there are some exceptions probably to this, but you have to see what effect it creates on you and on other people in your life.
Yes. There is a one more question. What to do about the world which doesn't understand unconditional self-acceptance, and how to deal with their judgment?
I think we are also part of that world, because I'm being very honest with you. Though I'm talking about this concept, it would be a lie if I tell you that I know it all. Like, I understand unconditional self acceptance. As I started this talk by telling you that psychology still has limited understanding, and so even I have. So I'll tell you, rather than the world, I think we ourselves are very self judgmental. We ourselves don't accept ourselves unconditionally. So, one thing that probably you can think about is, rather than focusing on others and how they don't accept you unconditionally, what about ourselves? Am I doing that to myself? Am I accepting myself fully, totally? That should be, I think, the point of inquiry here. And
Yes.
that's why, when I learned about this concept also in psychology, and I thought this is like a good relationship that you can create with yourself, so that even if the world sometimes doesn't, even if other people they don't, ultimately you have to live with yourself only. You have to live with your mind only, right? And if in that mind, if we nurture seeds of self acceptance, self love, self compassion, then I think we can have a good quality of life.
Yes. So I think Anisha, you can start the further presentation.
And then last few strategies which I just wanted to glimpse through, not like in detail because we may not have that much time, but I also discuss with my clients that having your own self acceptance based coping mantras are very good, right? Like, coping mantras is something that you can tell yourself, which will motivate you, which will inspire you, which will guide you. So some self acceptance based coping mantras which some of my clients and students themselves have created, I've just shared it with on the slide. You are imperfect, unique, and a work in progress. I acknowledge my limitations as well as my capabilities. You have flaws, you are not flawed. And one of my student, very beautifully, she told me that I am fabulous and flawed at the same time. I just loved that statement, that we are fabulous at certain things and we are flawed in certain things. So that's what who we are, unique. Then I refuse to rate myself globally. I will only rate my behaviors. This I have already told you. Now, going a step further in developing unconditional self acceptance, try to you know live for your own goals. Prepare a goal list for your own self, and look for opportunities to achieve your goals. Sometimes, because we are so scared of rejection and this, we are so much into labeling ourselves that we do not really optimize on our abilities. We do not know what we can do. So many things we can do, right? So prepare a goal list, that what you would like to achieve in your life, what are the things that you would like to do, and yourself create opportunities for achieving those goals. Don't wait for right opportunities to come, because they don't come. Actually, you yourself have to, creatively think and create opportunities. Then if you love yourself, means if you self accept yourself unconditionally, only then you will pay attention to your health properly. So make sure that your food habits, that you are, you have some kind of exercise in your life, any kind of, and you're sleeping well. So pay attention to your health, because unconditional self acceptance means that you'll also take care of yourself first. Only if you are self interested, you can be interested in others, right? So this is going to be very important. Then seek inspiration from life. Learn from everything and everyone. Once you have this unconditional self acceptance, or slowly, once you start walking on it, because we cannot say, I have it. It's something, it's a journey. But if you start making this journey, you will understand that you are not inhibiting yourself from anything. Anything and everything is a teaching moment for you. So you're learning from your critics, you're learning from people who like you, you're learning from people who are indifferent about you. You learn from every life experience, people, and nature, everything you're learning from. So seek inspiration from life, learn from everything and everyone, and try to, create your own bank account of inspiring thoughts, because that's very important. As I said, we have to live with our own mind only. So create a bank account of inspiring thoughts. Every day deposit some, inspiring thoughts into that bank account, and you will see, then you will not have to, you know, you will have wealth of wisdom with you. And the last point is, give 100% to the present moment. Many a times when we are not able to accept ourselves fully, we are either in the past or in the future, but we are not able to enjoy this moment right now completely. Again, it's hard, but make the effort. So whatever you're doing, try to give 100% to it and find delight in your efforts. Because sometimes your efforts are not rewarded, but just doing that effort makes you so happy. That is something that will help you to grow in life, right? So in our presentation today, we are learning about the joy of self-acceptance, right? You can only love yourself if you can accept yourself. We looked at three segments. First is, what is unconditional self acceptance? We looked at, we cannot globally rate ourselves. We are fallible, fallible, and complex. All are unique. We have some distinctive element that we can offer to self and to others. Then we looked at how unconditional self acceptance can promote mental well being, where we saw the disease of self rating is going to maintain your problems in life. Then we looked at some strategies that you can employ to nurture unconditional self acceptance in your daily life. Start with being aware of your self talk and create a bank account of inspiring, uplifting thoughts, and enjoy the wealth of wisdom. And when should we start this journey? So, when to start this journey towards self acceptance? Start it right now. We are not going to wait for the perfect moment or the perfect day to start it. So time will never be favorable. Make it favorable by starting this journey today. So I'm again very grateful to the organizers for coming up with such an inspiring initiative. I think that itself is worth acknowledging. And all these lovely students who have always given me more inspiration. I think I learn most from students, right? So I think you guys are doing amazing. Keep at it. And this gift of unconditional self acceptance, we first need to give it to ourselves only, right? So I hope my discussion was fruitful. And if you have any feedback or any feedback for further improvement, please, you can share that with me as well. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Asira. This was a really very enlightening presentation. And there are a few questions, if we can take those also. So there's one question where how to overcome stress and enjoy self-acceptance.
How to overcome stress?
And enjoy self-acceptance.
I think what I have understood about stress, stress is something we take stress. So stress will be there only in some or the other form, but what meaning you give to that stress? Stress is maintained by us. Stress is there around in terms of worksheets, assignments that you have to submit. Let's say you have to join a new company. So some kind of stress will be there, but it depends on you how you take it. So you can take stress as one day at a time, right? You can tell yourself that I can only do this much and I will try to do my best, but right now I can only do this much. So somewhere you have to be assertive and draw a boundary also, that how much you can do. So I think it's a very in-depth topic to talk about stress management. But to answer your question, I would say we maintain stress by again our own perceptions regarding boss, regarding environment around, regarding teachers, regarding exams. We have to work on that perception only first, and that will help you to maintain the balance between stressful situations and self-acceptance.
There is one more question. I think the student wants to ask that what is the difference between being a self-accepting person versus being a psychopath?
Psychopath is actually, again, we need more time to elaborate on that term, but they're very different actually. Self-accepting person is someone who knows to forgive his or her own mistakes and others' mistakes and grow from them, and excel, right? So it's about, again, acknowledging limitations, optimizing your strengths, and looking out for dynamic possibilities. That is self-acceptance. Psychopath is a very negative state of mind actually. It's a very negative and unhealthy state of mind. You're not able to manage your emotions in this state of mind, and you're not able to be mindful also of what you are talking, what you're expressing with others.
Great. So, Asira, I will also request you to check your chat box. I think there are a few messages from the students too. Okay.
Okay. My chat box.
Yeah, in the chat section, you can see that.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to see for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay, I'll fine.
Asira, there is some feedback about the presentation. If you don't mind, can I read it out to you?
Yeah.
Yes, sure. I would love to hear that.
Right. So, one of the students says that, it was a very beautiful message about learning from everything and everyone. It's a mind-blowing presentation and a lot of respect and gratitude from the students. We've got feedback like ultimate. So, I think that says it all.
Yes, I'm really thankful to all the students for attending. I think we get most energy. You would agree with me, Anisha and Anjali.
Yes,
We get most
yes.
energy, inspiration from our students. So that's
Yes, definitely. That's very true, Asira. And thank you so much for such a brilliant presentation. Thank you for patiently answering all the questions. And I think what is highlight or takeaway for me is the concept of a FFC, fallible, fallible, and complex human being. We all need to remind ourselves that we are human beings, and the FFC is something which is a highlight for the session. Along with that, it is usually happens, as students were also mentioning about it, that people around us will rate us, and maybe the professors, the parents, or any other people around us. The question which you also give was, this person is rating my performance or me individually? That will give a lot of insight to overcome if there is any kind of a rating and how we are perceiving that rating. So it is really, really very enlightening presentation for all of us. I think we are, and Anisha can see the feedbacks for your presentation from the students. But thank you so much. Thanks a lot. And we would like to see you again later also.
Sure, I'll be more than happy. Thank you, Anisha and Anjali, for organizing and inviting me once again.
Before we end, I just wanted to say that thank you all for this, for all of the students who've joined us. In case if any of you have not been able to attend the live feedback, or you want to share it with your friends, please go to the YouTube channel. We have SWC core team at the rate IITB. So this video is live telecasted also, and it will be uploaded over there. So you can share it along. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.